This week's Natural Gardening Live, we're going to be talking about what to feed your garden throughout the autumn and winter months and where you can find these forms of nutrients naturally. As much as gardens move into dormancy now, which we're starting to see with the leaves falling, and your plants will still be ticking over. So they'll still need some sort of food to get them ready and keep them in good condition, if you like, ready for spring. Hello and welcome to this week's Natural Gardening Live with me, Josie Rainbird, your natural gardening coach. So an autumn winter tend to either seen as a season as either you don't need to feed your garden at all, we don't because nothing's growing and this and the other, or gardeners tend to feed the wrong type of food completely. So these are the two problems I have witnessed that I have come up with, and people have asked me questions about feeding at this time of year. Those are the two obvious things. They either say they don't need to feed at all this time of year because your plants are going into dormancy, they don't need feeding now, or, which is a complete misconception, just putting that out there, or they are feeding completely the wrong types of food and they're going to be of no benefit. Jill's behind me because I thought it'd be easier than having her barking downstairs, but now she's crying behind me, so I might pick her up in a minute. So either feeding the wrong type of food completely or not feeding at all. It's all about understanding the stage of life your plants are at this time of year, what they're doing in this season, how they need you to support them. It's all about understanding that kind of thing. And when you understand this, you will understand how to provide the support for them and what food they're going to need to keep them happy and healthy. Before we get distracted by Jill anymore, I have a question for you. What happens to your garden in sort of late autumn, winter time? So does it continue growing as it does like in the spring, summer? Does it continue to grow on like that? Does it slow down? Does it stop? What do you think happens to your garden this time of year? So as I say, it goes to the question that I've asked before about what happens in your garden, how you think you need to feed your garden. So answer it in the comments and we'll check back later. So when your plants start to die back and go into dormancy for the winter, so they go to sleep, everything starts to shut back down again, ready to like kick off again in spring when the weather starts to warm back up again. There's different kinds of support that they're going to need compared to what they would need like the spring, summer. It's a different type of food, different type of nutrients, different type of support altogether. They're acting completely differently to how they would be in the spring, summer, so you need to treat them differently. Not only this, but the food they will need, we aimed at a different type of growth. So say they're acting differently, they're growing differently, they're going to need different nutrients. Your plants growth will take over very, very, very slowly. It won't stop completely. There will still be recovery happening and all sorts of things, meaning they don't need the nutrients that supports rapid green growth like they would do in the spring, summer. So that's nitrogen mainly. And they'll be focusing on maintenance, repair after like a stressful growing year, especially the year we've had this year with the summer and the lack of water and everything. They have had a bit of a stressful growing year. So they don't need the nitrogen that you would need like in the spring, summer to support the green growth and all the bug production and that sort of thing. So they wouldn't need that. They'll be looking to prepare and looking at maintenance and repair and regrouping, that kind of thing. So this type of growth needs less nitrogen and more potassium and phosphates. So the NPK, the three feeds, so the big three. So they will need, this time of year, they will need less of the nitrogen, N, and there will be more of the potassium and phosphates, the P and the K. So these nutrients support root growth. We'll get there. These nutrients support root growth, cell repair, and stem growth. These are all about maintenance, repair, and recovery, as we just said. They're after a rapid growth of spring, summer, this stress of producing fruit, flowers, buds, seeds as well. And like as I say, we've gone through the heat of the summer, where they've gone through drought and damage and that sort of thing. So they'll be looking to recover, get themselves back into shape, ready for a good to produce buds and shoots and things in the spring. So they're not looking to be being fed with loads of nitrogen to produce lots more leaves now because they just don't need it. They want to recover. They need the nutrients to recover, not to rapid grow or grow rapidly even. If your plants are in good shape, if your plants are in good shape, they'll be able to take the nutrients more easily, accessing water and minerals, that sort of thing, from the soil much more easily as well. The roots will be in a better condition to be able to access all this goodness in the soil. Maintaining the soil is also a good idea, which we'll go into in a little bit, talking about the natural feeds. Making growing in the spring, summer much less stressful and challenging for them, helping them to become more productive. So, as I said the other day in the live, I can't remember which live it was, a couple of weeks ago, I said about if your plants go into autumn, winter in good condition, their spring summers will be far more productive and they'll have far more resilience and things for all the pest and disease damage that goes through the year, making it much easier for you to garden. So perfect. So you want to keep them in good shape now, ready to go into spring, because it's going to cause you a lot less work. There are some plants that will be producing buds now, so they will need to be fed. Plants like rhododendrons, azaleas, camellias, the acacia type plants. These plants will start to produce buds now, ready for spring or early spring flowering. So a good potassium feed will support these plants and will help with the bud production, which is really good, which they need this time of year. If they don't get it, they can often prevent the buds from opening altogether, being produced altogether, and will affect the health of the plants. So a good potassium feed will support the bud growth this time of year, which is amazing, and will really help with the display through the spring. Often these plants don't get this feed, as I just said, or if they've had a particularly dry and stressful year, their growing year's been really harsh and challenging for them. That's what I was saying for, challenging for them. Their buds can drop. They can just drop their buds, reducing the display or taking their display away completely. And we all know once the plants don't have flowers, they can't get pollinated, they can't go into seed and that sort of thing. So it's going to really affect the health of the plant. Not to mention, it's going to affect the look of your garden as well, which I know isn't the bigger picture here, but it will affect the look of your garden, which is why they're there. And so just simply by feeding them a bit of potassium this time of year, which we'll go into in a little bit of what you can use, it's really going to help towards production of buds. Lawns. Now, I wanted to touch on lawns, as much as I don't talk about lawns very often, really, because they're a whole different ball game in some cases. But I wanted to touch on it because it is quite a good. There's a lot of misconceptions about what your lawn does during the autumn and winter, and so I just wanted to touch on the feeding side, so you can get an idea. So your lawn. If you've bought lawn feed in the past, if you've ever fed your lawn, bought food for your lawn from the garden centres or nurseries or whatever, you will have noticed there are two sorts of feeds. So it's a spring-summer feed and an autumn-winter type of feed. So these are divided up for a very good reason. They don't do a one-size-fits-all when it comes to lawn feed. Although sometimes it would be easier, but it just doesn't work that way. They don't need, as I said earlier, they do not need the same foods in the spring-summer as they do in the autumn-winter. So they split it up for good reason. Grass needs a huge amount of nitrogen in the growing season, so the spring, summer, they do. The nature of grass, as you know, if you have a lawn, the nature of grass is that it has more leaves than roots. It can be very hungry as well. Nitrogen will support the green growth, leaves, shoots and stems, which grass is mostly, these things. So it supports them nicely. So nitrogen is they need a huge amount of nitrogen through the growing season. When the autumn and winter hit, then needs for nitrogen will reduce and they become less hungry. Now we will start to see, although actually it's quite mild out still, so it hasn't really started happening, your lawns will slow down the growth, if not stop altogether, and they'll start to go a bit yellow maybe and start to they go into dormancy basically, like you would imagine. So this is why they need a different type of food. This stage, they will need to support their root systems, ready to spring back in the summer, because no matter what you do with grass, unless you pour something really horrible like a weed killer or something on it, it will recover and it will come back. So it's going to be quite happy. But yes, this in the autumn and winter, you're going to need to provide the food to support the root system, ready for the new year's growth. They will naturally come back when the weather starts to warm up, so that's fine. But as long as you look after the root system, the plant will recover quite happily. So autumn winter feeds for lawns will contain a higher percentage of potassium and phosphorus to support the root system recovery, plant recovery, all that sort of things, like we were talking about earlier with cell recovery and all that sort of thing. So it will have a higher percentage of potassium and phosphorus in it, and will contain negligible amounts, if any at all, any nitrogen at all, which is exactly what the lawn needs at this time of year. If it's fed nitrogen at this time of year, when the weather's just warm enough for it to keep growing, that's all it will do. It will just keep producing more and more and more leaves. We will not concentrate on its recovery. And then in the spring, summer, you will end up having issues. Not such a good plan. So this is why they divide lawn feeds up into the two sorts. So then you are supporting what the plants need at that time of year, what the grass needs at that time of year, and you are giving it the chance to take in what it needs, because grass in the autumn will use whatever nitrogen it can find, and it will continue to grow until the weather gets too cold for it to actually grow anymore, and it will just switch off. So, a little bit on your lawn there. It's a good idea to avoid, I just put this in a side note, though, it's a good idea to avoid you using nitrogen-based feeds on your lawn as it is wasted. And it's probably, I don't know why I didn't put this in there properly, but yeah, it will be wasted and probably leached from the soil in the rain as well, because soil has a tendency to do that sometimes if it's not in good condition. And the grass doesn't need it and it'll be wasted. So there you go. Fruit and veg. Now it's a little one for you before we get into how you can find natural sources of potassium and phosphorus for your plants at this time of year. So perennial flowers, fruit and veg will also need good levels of potassium feed to promote the health of their roots, their root systems, and repair of the plants, the growth stems, that sort of thing. So cell repair generally, really. They will help to support new root growth, new flower production, because as I say, the camellias, azaleas and rhododendrons, they're all producing buds for early spring. There are some, most perennial fruit and veg and perennial flowers, as soon as the weather starts to warm up, will start to produce buds and leaves and things ready for the spring to come back out and forth into life. So they will appreciate a good feed of potassium and phosphorus now as well. As much as bulbs require this as well, as much as the bulb is the food source for the bulb flower, the bulb plant, um, giving them a feed now as well will help them to use the bulb as a food source for they need it, and it'll give them a bit of a boost as well, really helping to improve the display, which is amazing, and giving them something to put back into the bulb at the end of the season. So as we know, when a bulb grows, it uses the bulb as the food source, produces the plant, and then at the end of the season, when the flower goes over, the leaves take in the energy from photosynthesis back into the bulb, and then they will start to produce its food source again, ready to do it all again the next year. So it will keep going. But if you give them a bit of extra food to make the bulbs bigger, and then better plants for next year, and they'll just keep improving and improving. So giving them a good feed now really is a good thing, and it really can help to produce a better display and a stronger plant as well for the season. So these are just a few things that, sorry, keep my pin. These are just a few things that can really benefit from a bit of potassium feed and phosphorus feeding now. Many natural potassium and phosphorus food sources. Now, I've spoken about various different sorts before, particularly potassium, but there are loads of different food sources that you can have. But I've got a few for you here, and that will help you this time of year to help you support your garden. Bone meal. Bone meal is a great source of potassium and phosphorus. It can be used as a top dressing on your garden, on the soil. You can dig it into the soil if you want to around the roots of your plants. So that will break down as it goes. If you use it as a top dressing, it will still break down through the rain will wash it into the soil. So that's really good as well, the top dressing. But yeah, you can dig it into the soil as well if you want. So you do that for like an instant effect. You can even add it to containers as well. You can dig into the top of containers to refresh those and give them a bit of a feed if you've got containerized shrubs or anything like that. So they're really good for that. So you can use it in containers. But bone meal is really good. You can buy that in the garden centres in boxes or even bucketfuls and bags as well. So you can get loads of like in good quantities. Organic matter, and this is what I was saying about compost just now. So organic matter, so well rotted manure, homemade compost, leaf mold, things like that. These are really good natural sources of potassium and phosphorus. We've spoken about making compost many times before, and I will find the my compost playlist and post that in here for you, so you can check that out if you're unsure about how you should make compost or how you can make compost, the benefits of compost, that sort of thing. I've got a playlist all about the different compost videos I've done, so you can check that out. That's fine. So these are all very good sources of potassium and phosphorus, natural sources. Good natural levels of potassium and phosphorus in the organic matter. Okay. Yeah, so the other thing about organic matter, which I put as a side note, is organic matter can also do a very good job of conditioning your soil, aerating your soil, breaking it up. If you've got claggy kind of clay and hardened soil, or if you've got sandy soil, it can thicken it up and help it to hold moisture. So conditioning soil is absolutely amazingly important. So yes, and it will also support the ecosystem of your soil, which, as I've mentioned many times before, as we probably know, the ecosystem in the soil will process the organic matter and then release even more nutrients for your plants to take up naturally. So that's really important. So organic matter is my kind of go-to kind of feed, all-round feed. It's really good for supporting the as a whole, the garden as a whole, the ecosystem, the pest control, everything as a whole. So if you're ever in doubt, organic matter is the way forward. And the last one is as a good potassium and phosphorus natural feed is wood ash. So wood, like burnt wood, wood ash, literally wood ash. So really readily available when you're having, if you've got a log burner, or if you do bonfires this time of year, anything like that, wood ash is amazing. Now, wood ash is also very good for calcium, as in calcium. It can also make your garden a bit more alkaline as well. It can adjust the pH to make your garden more alkaline. So if you've got concerns about your garden being too acidic, you need to adjust it for your plants, they're not happy, that sort of thing. Wood ash is a really good way to go. So that will adjust the pH down to more alkaline, or up to more alkaline, I forget, to more alkaline. So that can be really beneficial if you need to do that. So you can use, again, as with bone meal, you can use it as top dressing. You can dig it into the soil. Again, you can use it on containers as well, so that's not a problem. But yes, very effective and very easy to take up kind of form of potassium and phosphorus. So as I say, that was 3 sources. Wow, 6 sources really of natural forms of potassium and phosphorus your plants can access really easily, be really effective foods for your garden for this time of year. So I do hope I didn't rattle through that too quickly and you can understand it. Please watch it back on replay if you need to go back through it. But I will be posting as we go through the week, so you can pick up on them on the post. So that is fine. So I hope this has helped you to understand what you can feed your plants at this time of year, why it's important to feed your plants at this time of year, and not to just ignore them and leave them to it. And yeah, and where you can get the foods from as well, or where you can like source the nutrients. So if you've got any questions, obviously, please feel free to post below this video, slide, and then I will answer them as and when I see them. I will see, oh, I'm looking now. I will see you next week for next week's Natural Gardening Live. I have got it planned. I can't remember what it's about. Look out for what that's going to be about. Should be in the end of the week. So have a great day. Enjoy your week, and I will see you in the next one. See you later.